Okay, we're up to about 36 people, 37 people now in this meeting. Welcome to the New Westminster Community Grants Information Session. My name is Steve O'Neill-Shea, and with me is my colleague, Jill Howie, Volunteer Coordinator with the City of New Westminster. I'm the Community Grants Coordinator with the City of New Westminster, and I will be leading you through this presentation today. And as we begin, I would like to recognize and respect that New Westminster is on the unceded and unsurrendered land of the Hokomalum speaking people, and we acknowledge that colonialism has made invisible their histories and connections to the land. As a city, we are learning and building relationships with the people whose lands we are on. I'd like to thank all of you for being here. I want to first acknowledge that this session is being recorded, and this session will be posted online afterwards for other grant applicants to review. And if you would like to have another chance to review it, you will be able to view that recording as well. Similarly, the slides will also be put up on the city's website so that if you have questions that would be best answered by the slide deck, you're welcome to review this. And there will be notes kind of tucked in the bottom of each slide that may assist you in developing your application. For the reason that this event is being recorded, your cameras have been turned off, your microphones have been turned off, and we will ask you kindly to put all of your questions into the chat or into the Q&A section. And that will allow for you at the end of the presentation to answer some of our questions, or to answer some of your questions. I just want to acknowledge that this digital space that we're in is intended to be a respectful environment, and we as staff will be respectful of you and answer as many questions as possible, and we ask that you in turn be respectful of this digital space. And so in your interactions through the typing that you put into the chat, please be mindful of how you're communicating, knowing that this is, again, a public space. And with that, I think I will begin to lead us through the agenda and let you know exactly how this presentation will unfold. We will begin by reviewing which are the portfolios for the Community Grants Program, and then we will go into the grant types that you can access. We'll talk about the program budget and the timeline. We will have a look through the application form together, and I will talk about the budget tab because that is always the one that causes the most challenges for applicants. We'll talk about the application review process and the staff advisors that are available to support you, and then of course the any frequently asked questions or questions that you may have will direct you to where you can find it on the city website or answer your questions here during this session. So. The New Westminster Community Grants Program continues to be sort of split between 3 grant portfolios. And you will know this as Portfolio 1, Grants for Living, the Community Livability and Social Equity portfolio. Portfolio 2, Grants for Involvement, Social and Cultural Vibrancy. And the third is the Grants for Growth, Community Economic Activators. And inside each of these portfolios is a subject area, and I will go through those super quickly. If you are applying in Portfolio 1, your subject area would be community wellness, environmental, or childcare. If you are in Portfolio 2, your subject area would be arts, or heritage, or amateur sports, or community festivals and events. And it does include the sports travel grant as well. And lastly, there's the community economic activators, which is restricted to just business associations within New Westminster. It's a much smaller grant portfolio. And so that can be chambers of commerce, business improvement associations, and similar organizations that are supporting businesses. On the website is a description of what each of these portfolios are aiming to support. And in this grants portfolio slide, there will be notes that you will be able to access. So as I stated, this is Portfolio 1, and it looks to decrease the vulnerability among community members, enhance community safety and overall quality of life, ensure access to high quality childcare for children, and to improve the urban and natural environment while supporting climate action. And so there have been lots of different applications that have been supported in the past. With childcare, it typically tends to be capital items related to supporting the ongoing operation of nonprofit childcare centers. Environmental activities that have been funded in the past include invasive species poll and supporting organizations that are addressing climate action. And community wellness has been things like Meals on Wheels and support for volunteer programs, and as well as supporting those who are unhoused in our community. In Portfolio 2, grants for involvement, here, as I said, they are looking to broaden participation, enrich community vibrancy, expression, and creativity, to recognize and engage with the community's unique heritage, and to foster opportunities for achievement and innovation. And there's examples that include travel to national and provincial sports. It includes film festivals and community projects, community arts projects. Festivals like Riverfest and Fridays on Front have been funded in this portfolio, as well as National Indigenous Peoples Day celebrations, heritage tours, and a medicine wheel labyrinth in the past. And lastly, as I said, the grants for growth, the community economic activators, is restricted to business associations, and this has included Uptown Live and the New Westminster Farmers Market, including the activities that they typically do or strategic planning for these business organizations. Next, we'll talk about grant types, and there are truly two grant types within this community grants program. Most organizations fall into the cash grants category, which is applying for funding up to $20,000. And larger groups and groups that are already funded in the program are eligible to apply for cash and city services grants. And to clarify on this, if you are applying for a cash grant, you're applying for cash. And if you're applying for a cash and city services grant, you're applying for cash or city services and city services in any amount up to $75,000. So you could apply for $5,000 cash and $70,000 in city services, or $70,000 in cash and $5,000 in city services. Any amount between 0 and 75 in any of those two. But if you are not applying for city services, then the cap is generally at $20,000. That's not to say that you wouldn't be eligible for cash grants and city services. There are some organizations that are higher than that 20,000. It's a conversation that you will have with your staff advisor over where you would sit. But I would say that most organizations funded in this program, regardless of portfolio, are receiving cash grants under $20,000. In your application that you will see on October 1st when it opens, you will be required to fill out the questions, fill out a budget form. Because we are supporting community partners, which are defined as nonprofits, defined as charities, defined as service groups, defined as community groups, which are groups that are not incorporated as nonprofits. You need to provide, as part of your application, the minutes of your last AGM, the most recent financial statements from your AGM, your constitution and bylaws, and the budget for your proposed activities, and any documentation that would support or verify the request that you're making. Oh, forgive me, the lights go out here on their own sometimes. If you are a community group and not a nonprofit and you don't have any of these documents, that's okay. It's not a requirement if you're not a formally organized group. But if you have them and you don't submit them, that would reflect negatively on your application. So as I said, the funding up to $20,000 eligible requests include annual program delivery costs, one-time projects, capital items essential to program delivery, seed money to develop and launch new programs or ideas, events, equipment, and services, and staff professional development. These typically range in, you can apply it for up to $20,000, but what we've seen historically is that most groups get between $500 and $7,000 in support for their proposed activities. This application form is actually shorter if you're applying for $20,000 or less than the city cash and city services up to 75,000. So you don't have to put in as much work to apply for the cash grant up to $20,000. One thing to note, and it's very clear in the guidelines, that funding up to $20,000, there are many ineligible expenses listed in the application guidelines, but of note that any project, any proposed activities that are funded under $20,000, staff and administration are not eligible expenses. It's for the direct delivery of your programming. That's what expenses are eligible. Building on what we've just said about grant types, most applicants and all new applicants to the program can apply for cash grants up to $20,000. If you are an organization that has never applied to our program before and has or is not currently funded through the New Westminster Community Grants Program, your maximum to apply is $20,000. Grants larger than $20,000 are for organizations already funded through the New Westminster Community Grants Program, and no organization can apply for more than $75,000. That's your cash grant, your city services combined. Speaking to city services, this is considered a cash equivalent for actual costs incurred by the city for providing services. These are services that include garbage and recycling collection, road closures, police services, support from our special events department, and you can find out more information about city services by looking on the city website at newwestcity.ca/grants, and in the how to apply section there's a full document on what city services are and how to request a city services quote in advance of the deadline. City service quotes opened yesterday, so as of now you can begin contacting grants at newwestcity.ca to begin requesting a city services quote that will assist you in developing your application before the intake opens. It usually takes us about 2 to 3 weeks in order to develop your city services quote, so you should come to us with your event plan ready, knowing the scope and scale and size and where you intend to host your event, if you're planning to shut down streets and how many streets and how many police you think you will need on each corner of your event. And because this is such an involved process with our special events team, it's imperative that you begin this process as soon as possible. There is a cutoff date on the 17th of October, which is 10 days prior to the application deadline. And we wouldn't be able to provide you with a city services quote in 10 days if you were asking after October 17th. One thing to note that was new last year and continues to be a part of the community grants program, city facilities, licensing and permits continue to not be a part of city services. These spaces are already subsidized by the City of New Westminster and offered to the community at reduced rates compared to private sector facilities, and therefore we're not providing them as city services. The advantage has already been provided. What we encourage you to do is go to those facilities that you're looking to rent, put in a hold for your date so that you can book it and get a quote from the facility that you're looking to use, and include that in your grant application and have it be as part of your cash request. So you will receive cash. And the reason why, beyond why city facilities, and we said, are not because of their subsidy, if your event plan changes and you decide you don't want to use a city facility and you'd like to move it somewhere else within New Westminster, you still have the cash to be able to pay to rent that space. So you're not necessarily stuck in your event planning using a city facility. So it actually affords your organization more flexibility to have the cash and to respond to any changes in your event planning, instead of just through a city services funded facility. It empowers your organization. Multi-year funding continues to be available for organizations to apply for. If you are already funded within the program, you have to deliver your proposed activities for us to know that your organization is capable of delivering it. You're within the program, and you can apply for up to 5 years. Your organization must have a clear mandate, a significant history of programming and service within New Westminster. You must have demonstrated financial stability, and that includes matching funds for the project. You need to have organizational capacity and sustainability, and you need to demonstrate a learning orientation. And what that means is we want to see that your organization is doing the work of professionalizing, of educating yourselves. You can still be a volunteer organization. You do not have to hire staff, but you have to be working as a board of directors and as a group of volunteers to show us in which ways that you're working to improve your organization, so that you can better deliver your proposed activities in New Westminster. If you have any further questions about that, I'm more than happy to answer them. We also have a sports travel grant, and I'd like to let you know that this actually is a separate application form for all portfolios. You will be using the same application form unless you are applying for a sports travel grant. It's available for individuals and teams, and it provides assistance to provincials and nationals and international competitions. The funding is provided after the travel to the event is complete, and there are fixed amounts available, which are outlined in the grant application guidelines. And as I said, there's a separate application form that you will see inside the grants platform. The program budget. So each portfolio has its own program budget, and there is about $1 million annually that is distributed through the New Westminster Community Grants Program. Some of that funding has been allocated already to multi-year groups, but the budget for Portfolio 1 is separate from Portfolio 2 and is separate from Portfolio 3. Generally, there's about $300,000 in Portfolios 1 and 2, about $90,000 in Portfolio 3, and then City Services has its own budget of about $200,000. And forgive me if you're doing the back of the napkin math on that. I assure you those numbers are rounded. It does add up to $1 million, but that's approximate which each portfolio and funding envelope has. Funds have to be used in the calendar year. So if you are awarded funds in 2026, you cannot carry them over to another year. And similarly, organizations that are currently funded in this calendar year cannot carry their funds over to the next year. You have to use them in the year that you're awarded. So right now it's the fall of 2025. All organizations are applying for 2026 grants for activities that you will do in the year 2026. Last thing to note is that the funding is expected to be the same as last year. There has been discussion of the grant and the grant budget increasing, and that hasn't been fully decided by Mayor and Council. But as it currently stands, staff are working with the understanding that the fund for next year will be the same as it has been for the 2025, this current calendar year, so $1 million. Let's talk about the application submission process. What you need to do, we use a grant platform called Good Grants, and every applicant needs to log in and register and log into this grant platform in order to access the application. So please go to newwestcity.grantplatform.com. We recommend that you review the community grant application guide to read through all of the pages that are in there that explains how the program works, and we encourage you to contact your staff advisor if needed based on your subject area. Then consider if you need city services and ask for that quote. And then the application intake opens on October 1st, and the deadline is October 27th. And so that we ask that you please apply before then. No late applications will be accepted. And so another timeline, as you can see here, today we have our online information session. The application intake opens on October 1st. City services deadline is the 17th. And the application intake closes on Monday, October 27th. There will be an application review by the grant advisory committees in November. And best case scenario, we intend to communicate the grant decisions to applicants. We are aiming for that, but recognizing that dependent on the volume of applications that we receive, it may be that we have to wait into the new year to provide results of the application reviews. We will communicate with you in early December, or even probably November. Actually, we'll have a pretty good sense of the volume of applications we're reviewing, and we'll communicate to all applicants if there's a delay. So the application intake, the grant application form is not available in the grant platform until October 1st. You cannot see the questions in advance. However, you can onboard onto the system now and be prepared for when it does open on October 1st. In the meantime, I highly encourage you to look at the how to apply section on the grants website. There's a document called What to Expect. It's new this year, and I highly recommend that you get that document and read it through. It will assist you in the development of your application. Select the appropriate portfolio. I think this is really important to note that organizations cannot apply for more than one portfolio. In fact, your organization can only submit one application. And if you are found to be submitting more than one application, you will be contacted by city staff and informed that you can't do it, and asked to combine the asks within one portfolio. And so we ask you to really take a look at your organization and what you do in a year-round cycle, that you're not thinking of your work as one-off projects. Even if you only do one project a year, there's likely planning and evaluation that go into that one project that spans over the year. But look at what your organization does in this community across an entire fiscal year. And if you identify yourself as a specific subject area, apply in that portfolio. Please do not think that you can develop a project and in one portfolio and another project in another portfolio and submit 2 applications. It won't be considered. That can't be done. We're asking organizations to take a holistic look at their organization, apply in one portfolio. And if you're applying for multiple events for the year, that's fine. You can combine them all together in one. We have historically had that happen, and that's great. We encourage you to do that, to take a look at what your organization does at a sort of a macro level, rather than the individual events that you may be delivering. Multi-year grants and city services grants, as I said, if you are requesting those, you will be using a longer form to provide more information. If you are closing down streets, if you are needing multi-year funding, we need to know more about your organization and your proposed activities. And what you receive in filling out that longer form is, with multi-year funding, it means that your administrative capacity is freed up to be able to pursue other funding sources, to be able to plan with certainty that you have funding coming for different years. And with city services, you can be sure that you won't be provided an invoice at the end of your event for the cost of the services that you require. You cannot shut down a street without a traffic management plan, without police presence, and and a permit. And all of those city services have costs, and this grants program covers that cost. Forgive me, I think I've forgotten to get some water. I'm noticing that my throat is quite dry. I'm just going to take a sip here and I'll continue. Speaking to the application form, you must register and create a password to access the grant platform. The grant platform allows you to save your answers and uploads until you submit the application. So as long as you're hitting the save and next button at the bottom, it will save your answers in the platform. You can leave and come back as necessary. The grant platform will allow you to print your application form upon submission so you can keep it. And I highly recommend that because you may want to use it if you're going to apply in future years, but you can always contact us at grants@newscity.ca. We can support you with any technical issues or with accessing the grants platform. Now I would like to show you a demonstration of the grants platform through our web browser here, and you can see a little bit of what it looks like. So here we are. This is the grants platform here. And when you log in, you'll be prompted for your password and you log in and you will be brought to this page here. The New Westminster Community Grants, there's the home button and the apply tab. You want to make sure you're always on the apply tab in the applications subsection. Important information about applying will all be here. And as you scroll down, please note that this grant platform is actually shared between grant applicants and residents associations. And these are two separate intakes and application forms. You do not want to apply for Residents Association Community Investment Funds. You are applying for community grants. And so you'll see here, this is the Residents Association application. And next to here, starting on October 1st, will be the community grants application form. I have invited myself to open a form and we'll take a look at it really quickly. I'll try and move you through it as quickly as possible. So you begin here by filling out this section. You pick the portfolio that you are a part of and wanting to apply under, and then you move to eligibility, and you will determine if you are a community partner. And a community partner has a definition. As I said, it's a nonprofit, it's a charity, it's a service group. You can be a New Westminster based nonprofit or charity. You can also be based outside of New Westminster, but you must demonstrate that you have a connection to your work in New Westminster and within New Westminster, that you're somehow connected to people who are living and working in this community. We do have many service providing organizations that are based throughout the province and do work in this community, but they are established and they are doing work here. If you are new and developing a new program or looking to expand into New Westminster, please make that apparent in your application so that the grant advisory committees can understand how it is that you anticipate your proposed activities will benefit residents of New Westminster. As you move through this, you will, this is how you find your eligibility. You'll move through all of these questions, and then you will click check eligibility down here, and it will move you through to the next stage of the application. More tabs will become available up here, and you will be able to fill out the rest of the application form. Should you be successful in your grant application, the online grants reports are now done here. And you can see we have a test application for a pickleball club, very popular in New Westminster. And a grant report form is what you would complete after your proposed activities are finished. This is the grants platform and how it works. And if you have any further questions about it, I would be happy to answer those after this presentation. In regards to the budget submission, we heard loud and clear from applicants last year that it was far too complicated, and we have gone to great lengths to simplify the budget form for this year. All you will need to provide are the revenues and expenses for your proposed activities, and you must submit a balanced budget. So if you did your proposed activities last year, we want to see what your actuals were for your revenues and expenses, and we want to see what you're budgeting for this next year for 2026 as your revenues and expenses. There's no need to provide any. There were many other columns in the past, and we've realized that we can actually find out the information we were needing to know, and the grant advisory committees were needing to know through reading your financial statements that you submit. So we've simplified it. It's just the last time you delivered the activities and the next time that you haven't yet delivered. We do require that you clearly identify which is city funding and which is city services. And we do still require that you identify an itemized use of city funds. And so if you are applying for $5,000 in funding, you need to tell us how you plan to allocate that $5,000. $1,000 towards artist fees, $1,000 towards venue rental, $1,000 towards marketing, $1,000 towards rentals. And so you'll itemize it to say, this is how we plan to use our $5,000 that we receive from the city, and you will be expected to use it in those amounts and report out and provide receipts for reimbursement when the grant is done. We request for groups that aren't dealing in large amounts of revenues and cash to please quantify and label in-kind contributions similar to community gaming grants from the province of British Columbia. If you have volunteers, donated goods, free use of equipment and facilities and services, if another organization is contributing something to your event, please determine the value of that and include it in your budget form. So there's a requirement to have matching funds. If you're asking for $5,000, you should have $5,000 as equivalent funding. That can be cash equivalent or it can be in-kind equivalent. So if you were looking for to quantify your volunteers, gaming has historically used $20 an hour for a volunteer, their value. And so we would say count up all your volunteer hours, times it by $20, and include that as an in-kind contribution to the delivery of your event. Want to last remind you that staff are available as staff advisors. We can answer your questions, so please email us at grants@NewWestCity, or when we get to the staff advisor page, I will give you a review of all who's on the team. After your application closes in November, or at the end of October, forgive me, we will then begin the application review process. There are 3 grant advisory committees made of residents from New Westminster. They are your audience and who you are writing your applications to. City staff do not decide who gets funding and who doesn't. There is a criteria that is set out in the grant application guidelines, and there is an additional document that breaks down what the 8 evaluation criteria are and how the scoring works for the grant advisory committees to score your applications. I highly recommend that you review that document so that you can understand. But your audience are people who are so passionate about this community that they will volunteer their time to read dozens and dozens of grant applications in the dark cold of November. So please know that these people are deeply interested in the work that you do. They are supportive of the work that you do, and they will be reading many applications, and they're very knowledgeable about the community. They are volunteers, and they are the ones who are commenting, making recommendations for funding, and eventually reaching consensus on how much to award an organization, whether to award an organization, and how many years of multi-year funding to award an organization. Staff, as I said, are advisors, and we support the process, but the decision-making belongs to the grant advisory committees. In December, as I said, we will do our best to notify all grant applicants of the results of the review process, and funds will not be distributed until January 2026 because your proposed activities will take place in the calendar year of 2026. It also fits in a City of New Westminster fiscal year, which is calendar year. So at the beginning of the year, we will distribute the funds to organizations. If you are awarded multi-year funding, you will receive the funding right up front for the first year, all of it, and you will be expected to write a grant report form by December 1st of every year that you are receiving multi-year funding. If you are an organization that has previously been funded through the community grants program and you are delivering activities that you have delivered before and receive funding for, it's the same thing as last year, then you will receive half the money up front that you are awarded. And upon completion of your online grant report form and submission of your invoices and receipts, we will provide the second half of the funding to you. If you are a new organization or if you are doing a new initiative that's never been delivered in the community before, you are not eligible for funds up front. You will do your event, and when it's finished, your proposed activities, when it's finished, then you will submit invoices and receipts, and we will reimburse you then. This is to reflect the work of relationship building. When we know your organization, when you're in the program, when you've been in the community and you're working here with us for many years, we know you have the capacity to deliver your events. And so in building that relationship, the funds can come earlier. But as we are making new friends and getting to know new organizations, that first year does require that you are able to deliver it all in advance and then be reimbursed afterwards. You'll see here that if your proposed activities take place on the first half of the year, we would like you to submit your online report form by August 16th. And if your activities take place on the second half of the year, you have until December 1st. This is to ensure that we aren't inundated with grant report forms in the last week of November. So if you can get your application, your online grant report form done earlier in the year, we can get you reimbursed faster or the balance of your funds faster. So that's completely fine, provided your proposed activities are completed and delivered on the year. As an awarded grant organization, these are additional aspects that we require as part of the grant. We want you to acknowledge local First Nations here on Coast Salish lands. We want you to acknowledge the city, including our logo on all of your marketing materials and on your website, acknowledging the contribution that the city's made through the community grants program. We encourage you to do an environmental impact assessment of your activities, and truly that is not as complex as it sounds, but to really say, are we planning to recycle? Are we throwing things away? How can we mitigate waste? How can we not waste so much? To just really consider that as your board or as your staff to really make sure that you are treading lightly on this planet. If you are a festival or event, you will be required to work with our FEST team, which is an interdepartmental team led by our special events division. And so if you know Jen B or Melissa F, they will be the people who will be supporting you in this next year, should you be funded through the community grants program. Next, I'd like to just highlight the staff advisors for each subject area. Myself, as the Community Grants Coordinator, I oversee the program administration. You can always reach me at grants@newscity.ca, and that's my phone number there. Happy to talk on the phone and answer your questions. If I don't answer right away, I will call you back. And each of the subject areas within each portfolio are listed there, and you have contact for actual city staff who would be more than happy to talk to you and provide you with clarity as you develop your application. I do recommend that if you are applying in the arts category and you're not receiving a response from Todd, please contact me and I would be happy to provide you that information. It's not likely before October 1st you will hear back from Todd as he is away on leave, but I'm here to support the arts groups as needed. So yeah, please contact us. We're here to support you, and we want to assist you in developing the best application that you can and to understand what's needed for the grant advisory committees. And so with that, I realize that I've been doing a lot of talking, 42 minutes. It's pretty good. Almost lost my voice, but it's been a pleasure to share with you what the Community Grants Program is. I know that you are left with many questions still, and so I ask you now if you could please put your questions into the chat or into the Q&A section. We have Jill Howie, my colleague here, who's been collecting them and will be able to read those questions out loud, and I will do my best to provide you with answers.
All right, Stephen, we have a couple of questions from some brand new societies, and they're wondering how do they provide proof of their impact when they're new, and also they don't have meeting minutes or financials because they're brand new.
Yeah, we absolutely welcome new applicants to the group to apply to the programs. Forgive me, to the group. To the group, we welcome you to try and join the group of funded organizations. Your newness is not a deficiency. If you are new, you are considered a community group and not a registered nonprofit, and that's fine. We want you to be clear in what your purpose is. And you should have that written down. Why are you a group? What are you hoping to achieve? These are simple things that demonstrate what your organization or what your group is hoping to achieve. And if you don't have those minutes, or you don't have the AGM, which you wouldn't as a community group, that's fine. You don't have to attach that to your application. But we do hope that as you continue to deliver your activities, that you begin to think about how you will eventually someday become a nonprofit. I'll also say that if you don't have history of delivering activities in New Westminster, again, that's fine. Your idea is new, and you are doing essentially a pilot project, and we will support you. I can support you, but I encourage you to scale your project appropriately. Don't apply for $75,000 on your first year if you're a brand new community group and project. If you think you only have $500 in in-kind contributions and maybe some sponsorship dollars, you should probably only be applying for a matching $500 from the City of New Westminster. So do have your organization, your board of directors, your community group, 3 people who are really working together to have a sense of what it is that you're doing and scale it. This year, you're just going to do a proof of concept, a small event, and next year, once you've delivered it once, you'll apply to the program again. You'll have that first year, we know what you do, we'll know your organization and be in relationship with one another, and you'll be able to apply for larger grants in the future. Yeah.
Right. Bettina is just wanting some clarification on multi-year grants, and will she continue to get the money upfront in January?
Yeah, thank you. New multi-year grants are eligible for organizations who are currently funded within the New Westminster Community Grants Program. If you received money in 2025, you are eligible to apply for multi-year grants in 2026. You can ask for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, or 5 years. And what you ask for will be considered by the Grants Advisory Committee, but they ultimately will make the recommendation for however many years they feel is appropriate based on their review of your application. Multi-year funded organizations do receive 100% of their awarded funds in January every single year that they are receiving multi-year funding. So if you receive 5 years of multi-year funding, you will receive your awarded amount every January for 5 Januaries. Yeah.
Great. Awesome. All right, we have a question. Can you describe the geography of where the charity must conduct their activities? Do 100% of the activities must happen in New Westminster? Is this correct?
Yeah. New Westminster is 7 square miles, 15 square kilometers in the center of the Metro Vancouver region. And so we expect in this program that your activities take place in New Westminster and are focused on New Westminster residents, but we understand that your organization may be much larger than just the New Westminster area, that people from Burnaby and Coquitlam, Surrey, surrounding communities are also probably accessing your programming and your proposed activities. We want visitors from around the region to come for festivals and events in this community. So we need to see demonstrated proof in your application that residents primarily are being impacted by your proposed activities. And so I would encourage you to go with the city limits of New Westminster. To know this community is to know that we have a fierce sense of place inside our 7 square miles. And we do want the benefit of your proposed activities to be delivered here. As a charity based outside of New Westminster, again, completely fine, not a problem. But we want to see that you are connected to this community in a meaningful way.
Great. We've got a bunch more questions. Are there any issues in requesting a grant for a program that has a small commitment fee from users?
No. No, but we do want you to demonstrate how you are reducing barriers to participation and being inclusive in your practices. So yes, it may have costs and fees. And I'm thinking of some organizations that, yes, they do. I think the Film Fest, for example, has a small cost to purchase a ticket to attend their festival. However, a $5 ticket is not reflective of the cost of putting on a film festival. We're all very lucky in New Westminster to not be paying $20, $30, $40 tickets for a film festival, and that's because the grant funding allows for reduced costs for participation. So we won't exclusively say that you can't charge, but we, as I said, you need to demonstrate that you are increasing access and increasing participation in your programming and benefiting community. So those funds should also be recognized as revenues in your budget sheet as well. So it contributes to the program, and it would clearly be offsetting expenses.
A question regarding grant funds used towards salaries and wages in the childcare sector. Most of the expenses are related to payroll.
Yeah, childcare. Childcare is explicit in the grant application guideline that it is only for capital items worth $500 or more, and you can only apply up to $5,000. I highly encourage anyone applying through the child care grant to read the guidelines carefully this year. And so what we will say is you probably are buying new capital items for your organization all the time, and you are also paying your staff. We would say that the user fees that that daycare and childcare operators receive from families would go towards payroll, and as would provincial funding that's offsetting those costs for you. The money that we are giving you is helping you replace equipment, is upgrading facilities, and we want you to make sure that that's valued in the amount of $500 or more, but knowing that there's a cap of a $5,000 application in the childcare subject area.
All right, a question for financials. If my organization is BC-wide, should we submit revenues expenses for our programs delivered only in New Westminster, or is an organization-wide budget sufficient?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Certainly with your year-end financial statements, make no changes, just upload that. For your budget here, I've seen it done both ways. It can be confusing why an organization might be asking for might be asking for between $5,000 and $20,000 when it's evident that Fraser Health is providing millions of dollars to this organization. And of course, they're doing that across the entire Fraser Health region. But I will remind you that the grant advisory committees are based here in New Westminster, their residents. So if it's possible for you to partition your programming, thinking this is just taking place in New Westminster, if you're thinking we're going to impact this many people, it's going to take this many staff hours, it's going to take this much supplies, you could scale your program to the impact that it will have in New Westminster. And I think that you will make that case in the application form, and your budget could be scoped appropriately. I recognize that's more work, and I want to be careful on that recommendation. And if you are that person asking that question and you want to talk more about it, I would love to get to clarity, because I think that would be really helpful.
Okay. Oops. Thanks, Stephen. If our program is receiving funds from a New West municipal department, would that strengthen or jeopardize our grant application?
That's a very interesting question. I don't think it will jeopardize your application. It will be a consideration. You are already receiving support from the City of New Westminster, and I would encourage you, as you think of all of these organizations that are seeking funding and support, to consider that this is a very competitive program, and many people are seeking these funds, and that there are many other sources of funding available, including community gaming grants, including provincial dollars, including federal dollars that your organization could access, as well as private sector dollars, which I will recognize in this economy are harder than ever to access. But I wouldn't. I would encourage your organization to do the self-reflection to say that if you are already well partnered with the city, do you need these funds additionally? Thinking that many other organizations don't get that opportunity to be as closely partnered and aligned as your organization may be. So, yeah.
Okay. If my project is selected, am I allowed to apply for additional grants, different organizations, to enhance its development? So I'm not quite sure what that is asking.
Yeah, well, I'll try and answer it the way I understand it. And if I'm wrong, you can clarify in the chat, or you can email grants@newscity.ca to get an answer. You can apply for a grant from the City of New Westminster, and you will receive, should you be successful and awarded funding, you will receive that amount in the calendar year. You will not receive any more funding from the City of New Westminster in that calendar year. You are welcome to apply for other grants from other sources, whether that's foundations, charities, other levels of government. You can find other sources of revenue, and that's absolutely fine. And we encourage all of you as a sector, the entire nonprofit sector, to work together and to partnership to ensure that your proposed activities do not overlap, that they don't overlap with what the city is doing, and also don't overlap with each other. And we see a lot of alignment in a lot of your organizations. So your organizations have different mandates, but if you're partnering together to deliver activities in some way, that's what I would say a much better, I think it would help your application more than it would hurt. We aren't looking for organizations to work the system in a way that you both apply and contribute it all to one pot, but we do know that if you're working to the same ends and you're supporting the same aligned goals to reach your separate visions, then we do want to see cross collaboration within the sector. So I think that's to say, like, yes, apply for more grants from other sources. Yes, partner with your friends and colleagues within the sector, and do that hard work of self-reflection of what is the most ethical way to do that. So if you need more direction or clarity on that, please email us at grants@newwestcity.ca. I'd be happy to talk that out with you.
All right, I think we're down to the last couple of questions
Superb.
in the last couple of minutes. Are partial grants available? For example, if my application is for 10,000, but there was only 8,000 available, will the 8,000 still be awarded, even though that's less than the amount of the application?
Yes. In fact, that's very likely to happen because these grant applications are reviewed by the Grant Advisory Committee. They are reviewing and all of these applications and making recommendations for funding. They understand that your application does require the amount that you're asking for, and that will be evident in the scale of your activities, in the development of your application, and how well you can communicate what your proposed activities are, and reflected in the healthiness of your budget. I'm sorry, it just dropped out of my head. Could you repeat the question, Jill?
Sorry, I was just looking at the next questions,
Yeah, no
which
problem.
there's a few more. We were talking about if they ask for 10,000, but there's only 8,000 available.
Thank you very much. Yes, there is a new answer, or a new question in this grant application intake that says, does my organization, can I deliver this project with less than what I'm asking for? And you can indicate whether that's yes or no. That will help the Grant Advisory Committee in their review process. But yes, you could be awarded any amount up to the request that you're making based on available funds, based on the review of your application. That's possible and almost very likely to happen. Yeah. So.
Okay, a couple more questions. To clarify, can we apply to use grants in programs such as recurrent, weekly, monthly, et cetera, or just events?
Thank you for that question. Yes, programs are eligible, and we're very careful in using the term proposed activities, because we as the city are not telling you, the nonprofit, how to do your work. And so your proposed activities are whatever it is that you do. And so if you do events, if you do weekly programming, if you do a one-off, however it is that you are serving residents of New Westminster, serving this community, we want to support that. We're not asking you to too narrowly fit inside of a box. We want you to put forward what your proposed activities are, and your activities can be broad. We recognize there's such diversity in the nonprofit sector that we can't specifically say it's an event or it's a program or it's a service. So we use the term proposed activities. Please just do what you do. We want to support that.
A very specific question about heritage.
Yep.
Must this category be specifically Canadian heritage, or may it be minority heritage, such as a Latin American heritage? Just to clarify what heritage means.
Yeah, thank you. It is engaging with the community's heritage, and so that would be what New Westminster would, its history and its heritage, as it's been a city here on the edge of the Fraser River. Certainly, we recognize that cultural heritage is valuable and would still be a qualifier under Portfolio 2, and whether you're doing an arts event, a festival event, or heritage, you would still all be under the same portfolio in your request. So depending on, again, if your proposed activities are actually a festival, then apply under that subject area. But if you're specifically looking for heritage, you will be reviewed, and your application will be reviewed and considered against other heritage applications, which will be much more closely tied to the, and we're not saying specifically Canadian heritage, we're saying to the diversity of heritage, I'm not sure what heritage is, there must be a plural, of New Westminster. Yeah, recognizing that there are many groups who have been excluded from the official record, who have not had their stories told but have still been here. That is still an important aspect of engaging with the city's, the community's heritage. So that's somewhat nuanced, but I would be happy, and actually Rebecca Salas, the staff advisor, would be more than happy to connect with you on that. But I think if you're thinking of cultural heritage broadly, in a global sense, it might be that you're probably more closely in one of the other subject areas. Yeah.
All right, I think that's all the questions. There is several messages of thanks, and but I think we've got to all the questions in both the Q&A section and the meeting chat.
Excellent. Thank you very much for attending. There's still lots of you here, so I appreciate it. We will be taking this recording and putting it up on the grants page website, and as well as the slide deck with the notes below. You will have access to that. My guess is, why don't you give me till Thursday? But I'll do my best to get it up tomorrow. Thank you very much, everyone. As I said, if you have any further questions, I'm absolutely happy to answer them. grants@newwestcity.ca, and wish you great success as you develop your applications. Thank you very much.